All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for being here tonight. My name's Justin Dahl, and I'm a senior consultant with Public Sector Search and Consulting. We're the recruiting firm that Boise's hired to help you with your next chief of police search. Thank you very much for being here today. Community participation is a huge piece of what we do. I think it's really the most important part of any executive search for a chief of police position. So I just want to thank everyone for being here. I know it's a little warm out, so I live in Virginia now, and it's been hot there, but it's not anywhere close to this. So thanks for bringing out the warm weather for me. I appreciate it. What we're going to do tonight, I'm going to introduce your candidates here in just a moment. I have a couple of questions for each of them, so we're going to give them a chance to respond to those so you can hear from them. And then we're just going to break up, and we've got tables set up around the room, different places for them to be. And I really encourage you to meet with them one-on-one, get to know them a little bit, ask them your questions, the things that are important to you about what you want to see from your police chief and your police department, and just spend some time chatting with them. So we're just going to get right into it. I'm going to start, just go right down the table here. This is Chris Dennison. He's currently Assistant Chief of Police in Tucson, Arizona. Jeff Burt, hi, Chief of Police in Tomball, Texas. And Tom Worthy is Chief of Police in the Dalles, Oregon. So, gentlemen, I'm just going to go down the table. You know, in around 5 to 7 minutes, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in being Boise's next Chief of Police? Chief Dennison, would you like to start?
Sure. So, like Justin said, my name is Chris Dennison. First and foremost, I'm a husband and a father. I got a 8-year-old little girl at home. She's got me wrapped around her finger with 9 more on standby, and I promise you she knows it. I'm a Tucson native, so is my wife, and coming out, you know, I have 20 years with Tucson Police, and my wife and I have been talking about where there's so many other parts of this country. You know, we want to explore other parts. We want to live somewhere else, and sorry, if I make sure everybody can hear me. So we started looking around at different places around the country, and the opportunity for Boise opened up, and I sent it to my wife. I'm like, what about Boise? And we've heard nothing but just amazing things about this city. So we did a lot of research. My wife actually knew somebody who left the Tucson Police Department, came here as a cop with Boise Police Department. Some of my wife's friends on the department spoke with her. She had nothing but great things to say about it, and we thought this would be such an amazing place for us to have our daughter, and for me, it's giving back to the community I live in. I can't think of a higher honor than serving as the Chief of Police for Boise. I've spent 20 years of my life dedicated to serving the community I live in, coaching on Little League, being on the Salvation Army's advisory board, and working in policing, and to come here and be able to do that, have that same level of service here would just be a tremendous honor. But choosing to apply for Boise was very specific. It's the first place I've ever applied to outside of the Tucson Police Department, and I'm very selective where I would want to go and bring my family. So that's why I chose Boise.
Yeah, if you could, just in a few minutes, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be Chief of the Boise Police Department.
That's what I thought the question was. I just wanted to verify. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Burt, and I want to echo what Mr. Dahl said, and that's to thank you. We all do this up here, my partners, because of you, because this is a calling, because policing is a labor of love, and it's about a love of service and a love of our communities. So in a nutshell, I have 28 years of law enforcement, and I've loved every year of it. I've spent the first 24 years in Los Angeles, and law enforcement gave me my family. I know that sounds kind of quirky and weird, but I'll get right into it. Like my partner here, I'm a husband of 25 years. We celebrated our anniversary, 25th year anniversary about a week and a half ago, and I've got 4 daughters. Real quick, as a brand new cop working Hollywood division, I was assigned to a call of an orphanage, and there were 2 little boys that had run away. So we set up a command post, and we started our look, and well, the little boys came back to the halfway home, and to interview them and look at them, these 2 little kids were so scared of me, and I know I look huge and big over here. Just kidding. That wasn't supposed to be funny, dang it. But anyway, they look at me, and they're holding this little Gumby doll, and the kid was so nervous he was twisting the doll's head and it fell off. I'm like, first of all, what are you scared of? Why'd you run away? And he's like, we have no toys here. We got nothing. So we went back to our school and climbed in our window and got some toys. And that instant was clarity. We all have moments in our life where you feel like, my gosh, I need to be doing something with my life. And that was it for me. I realized I came into law enforcement to be a super dope cop and be this great guy at undercover. I'm horrible at undercover. But what I realized is that the problems like narcotics, the problems like homelessness, the problems like crime that we all deal with, they are multi-leveled, multi-tiered, and the victims, maybe they're not even born yet, And so I was fortunate enough to meet the right girl, and we adopted 2 little girls, my first 2 daughters from South LA, both prenatally exposed to rock cocaine, and people ask me what I'm proud of. I'm proud of them. They got their bachelor's degrees. One's a nurse. One's managing a Lululemon. I get really cool discounts, but on yoga pants. But I'm so proud of them and then my 2 biological daughters. But policing gave me that. It gave me a family. It gave me the vision and the wisdom to say what really matters is working with the underserved. And I've spent 24 years in LA. I ran all the youth programs. I was in, because they knew I liked my own kids. They didn't know I wasn't nuts about everyone else's kids. But I ran about 8,000 kids in youth programs in LA. I wrote a lot of policies about youth programs. I wrote a policy on homelessness and then did a lot of assignments in really kind of difficult neighborhoods with a lot of gang problems and worked always with hopefully a holistic approach to how can we make this community better. Yes, people are going to go to jail, but that isn't always the answer. How can we prevent crime? Why Boise? Well, in a nutshell, as I'm looking at the current chief of police, it's some daunting stuff. Boise, in 24 years, they've driven down crime 24 years to the lowest crime level in 24 years. That's amazing. That means it's well run. I mean, that means there are officers and a community. And when I asked the chief today, he goes, not me, it's the community. That speaks volumes, not only of the chief of police here, of the officers, but of the belief, the rigorous belief that communities are what what reduce crime, just like policing. So when I come here, I look at it, we have a great low crime rate. There are other problems that we've dealt with. We have an unhoused population here, but we have a mayor and folks with the courage and inclination to say, how do we deal with this and look at holistic ways to do it? It's never going to be perfect, but we're trying in challenging ways to do that. We have a department in Boise, the police department, where 33% of the men and women in the police department are working on community relations issues. They're working in that's stunning, and they're driving down crime. So I look at that and say, we've got people that are working in mental health, working on bikes, working at airports in Boise, and doing great community outreach. That's something I want to be a part of. It's something I feel like I can contribute to. I look at Boise and with some concern. You had a real uptick last year in traffic. I know you're a growing city. People from California, people from Texas, a lot of people want to come here. And when a city grows, you are going to have little spikes like traffic, right? 13 fatalities last year, 80 serious crashes, and we don't know, is it a spike, is it a trend or a pattern? What are we going to do about that? But we're going to do it together. We're going to do education, enforcement, and engineering and work on things like that, and that's what's attractive to me. These are problems that we can solve as a community and as a police department together, and that's why I'm excited about coming to Boise.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Worthy?
Well, first and foremost, can everyone hear me in the back? Am I projecting well enough? Okay, great. Thank you for that. Thank each and every one of you for taking your time to come out and listen to us tonight. It's important and it's illustrative of the importance of the police department within the community of Boise. My name's Tom Worthy. I'm the chief of police in the city of the Dalles, Oregon right now. And prior to that, I was a 29-year state trooper in the state of Oregon. I'm originally from Pullman, Washington, which, as maybe some of you know, is 8 miles away from Idaho. And I'm a Pacific Northwest native, and so I grew up here and I've made my life here and conducted my professional career in the region. I graduated from Washington State University, and after college I joined the state police, where I was assigned to the government camp outpost in the Dalles. I did my first assignment at the Dalles, my first supervisory assignment in government camp, and I went on from there to Portland, where I spent 10 years on graveyard. 10 years. So I don't really tolerate the bright days very well. I'm always wearing my sunglasses. If you see me in sunglasses, that's why. And I went on from there to promote to general headquarters at the patrol division level, where division oversaw over 700 uniformed Oregon State troopers. And I was responsible for many of the programs that were run from the division, including commercial vehicle enforcement, DUI, aggressive driving, K-9 training, and a bunch of others. And so that really gave me my first command level experience in law enforcement, and I grew from that. I went on to manage our information technology as a captain after my next promotion, and we did some fantastic projects. Please be sure and ask me about the projects that we implemented later. And that really gave me a whole new skill set, a whole new ability to manage projects, implement technology, do the business process development that can ensure that those projects, which are quite expensive, land successfully. From that captain assignment, I went on to a major position where I was for about 6 years, and that was on the executive leadership team for the agency, overseeing all the operations of the Oregon State Police. And in that role, I also oversaw part of the Oregon State Police response to the riots in 2020 in Portland under operational command. And so that was like the book, A Tale of Two Cities, starts out, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, and that's how I think of that assignment for myself. And during that time, I was using the credits that I'd accumulated through the FBI National Academy, of which I'm a graduate, to take grad classes through the University of San Diego, and I graduated with my master's degree amid the riots. And then when that all came to a close, after 174 very long and taxing, trying nights of operational engagement, I get to a point where it was just time to move on, but I wasn't done in law enforcement. I still have a calling to do this job, and I moved to the city of the Dalles, which is where it all started for me, in Oregon as a full-time law enforcement officer, as the chief there. And in my time at the Dalles, we've already accomplished a lot in terms of cementing our commitment to community-oriented policing, which is my brand, that's my philosophy, that's my theory, and that's what I'm here to bring to Boise. And we also went through the accreditation process, which really acknowledges and demonstrates our commitment to the highest ideals in law enforcement. We went through that process, and going into that, it was known to be a difficult process. And I told our command staff, I've done difficult things. We're going to take it one day at a time and become accredited. And after about a year, we're fully accredited agency, and I'm proud of that. So there's more to do there. There's a lot more to do here. But I come here to Boise because this agency, this community, has what I'm looking for in terms of resources, community commitment, a devotion to the community, and as the others mentioned, the things that are happening here are good, are fundamentally good. And you can see that not through the statistics, but by walking down the street. And so in coming to Boise, under my philosophy of community-oriented policing, I fundamentally refuse to give 1 inch of what they've accomplished here. Not 1 inch. We'll maintain the status quo and continue to improve incrementally, even if it's a small improvement, one here, one here, one here. Over time, as those things aggregate together, we get better together, we do it with our partners, and we do it the right way with honor and dignity and respect, and that's why I'm here.
Great, thanks, Chief. All right, we're going to go on to our second question. I'm just going to go through the same order, start with Chief Dennison again. Chief, how would you lead the Boise Police Department to maintain and to build upon the good relationships the department has with the Boise community?
So most of my career has been involved in community policing. It is a core value that I've operated from, that the department I currently work at operates from. It's something I would absolutely bring to Boise and expand upon the work that's already been done here. One of the issues is when you're dealing with solving problems, you get a complaint on a problem, there's a tendency at times in law enforcement just to throw cops at it. We're going to put some cops there, they're going to fix the problem, then we're going to go away. And what I found is that doesn't actually deal with the problem. It is working with the community, it's working with other stakeholders, it's working with other city department entities, NGOs, anybody you can get to help to understand what the root cause of the problem is. And coming up with a holistic solution to fix it so that when you pull out the specialized resources from it, that the problems become sustainable. And in those efforts, it's building that trust with the community. One of the other things I think is huge is transparency. There is, anytime a police department withholds information on investigations or critical incidents, delays in release of body cam footage, those voids are always filled with some of the worst possible kind of things that people can think of. And to build that trust with the community, you have to be open with them. I would much rather air the dirty laundry of an agency out in public on my terms as opposed to doing it under public records requests, getting out in front of things and understand and taking ownership. The fact of the matter is that cops are people, and they are just as fallible as anybody else on this planet. And there's cops who make mistakes, and even though the officers may face some level of scrutiny and discipline, it's typically not going to cost them their jobs. And then there's just outright misconduct that's intentional, and I have zero tolerance for that. And it's, again, you have to air those out quickly. You have to address them. So in building that trust with the community, it's being open about those when there are missteps and there are mistakes, and they are going to happen. It doesn't matter how good of a police department you have. You have young men and women that are out there making critical decisions, and they're rapid, they're evolving situations, and they're not going to always make the right decision. You just got to own it when they make the decision and try to, when they do something wrong, and then put training in place, policies in place to try to ensure that doesn't happen again. I think the other thing that dealing with the community a lot of times is overlooked is looking internal to the agency, and officer wellness is an absolute critical component of that. It's really simple. Hurt people, healthy people help people. And if you, as an agency, as a leader, if you're not taking care of your rank and file, if you're not giving them the tools that they need to deal with the trauma that they see daily, cops are exposed to some of the worst things that can happen to humans, and it happens frequently to them. If you're not giving them the tools to deal with that stress, if you're not being procedurally just with them in the internal investigations, they're going to go out and they're going to push that out to the public, and you're going to see that represented in how your officers interact with the public. So one of the biggest things one of the core things that's important to me is how are we going to invest in our personnel, our sworn personnel and our professional staff, to give them the tools to deal with what they need, make sure that they have the training to be successful. It really is amazing if you think about it that we will give, in Arizona, we may give an officer 4 months of training in the academy, we give them 15 weeks of field training, we give them a gun and a badge, and we send them out there and expect everything to go great in rapid and evolving situations. And what we've learned is if we want people to perform, you have to constantly be training them. You constantly got to be going back to the well net. So other things I'll bring to the table is training. It's absolutely critical that we train our personnel so when they go out and they're interacting with the community, they're providing the best service possible. And that will also foster that trust with the community, knowing that they are going to have the absolute best police officers that in the country walking the street and responding to their calls for service. So those are the three of the big elements for me that it's going to bring. It's going to be that transparency, it's going to be openness, it's going to be taking care of the personnel, their wellness, and investing in their training to make sure that they're absolute top-tier cops.
Great, thank you, Chief. Chief Burt, same question for you. I'll read it for you again. How would you lead the Boise Police Department to maintain and build upon the good relationships the department has with the Boise community?
The second part of the question needs some reflection. Boise PD does have great relationships with the community, and as I think all of us have pointed out, it takes a community with open arms to do that, with the wisdom and to understanding how important law enforcement and peacekeepers are. So when I talk about leading, I think we are three things. We must be three things if we're police officers. We have to be peacekeepers. We have to be the people that get called in the middle of the night to a domestic violence call and be able to keep that peace, to be able to make sure that when people are feuding or at their worst day, we can go and we can calm nerves and we can keep people calm. We have to be peacemakers. That's what that tool belt and that's what a lot of that hands-on training is. Sometimes we can't just use our presence and be a peacekeeper. You know, we have to actually physically do something, whether it's put somebody in handcuffs, and sometimes it's messy, and sometimes it's all over the news, but it's also our job to be peacemakers, to forcefully make sure that we have peace in our community. Sometimes that's through arrest, like I said. Sometimes that's through other actions. And then finally, and I think most importantly, as a leader, I recognize we have to be peace seekers. So we need to be proactively, actively looking for ways to do good in our community that we're not doing now. And I really, I said earlier and commented that, and marveled really, that Boise is a police department where a full third of their department is invested and involved in community relations and outreach. So what that leaves me with is this is a department that looks, it looks really, really good on paper. But if I were coming in and to lead as a peacekeeper, a peacemaker, and a peace seeker, what I think I would look at, number one and first and foremost, is community engagement. I have officers on bikes, I have officers in mental health, I have officers in schools, but are all my officers doing community missions? I know we have great cops and we have crime missions, but do we have community missions? Do we have community safety missions? Do we have community policing missions where we're actually going out and studying that? Secondly, and reporting on it and measuring that and making that our primary objective. Secondly, how well are we driving down crime? We're doing amazing right now. I mean, like I said, I marvel at how well this and how safe this city is. One of the reasons I want to move my family here. But are we doing absolutely everything? And as a chief of police, I want to ensure that we are. Are we going to look at our filing rates, our clearance rates? Do we have enough detectives? Are we hiring? Are we hiring at a rate? I know we're trying. We hired 25 people this year. We're trying to hire 40 in Boise. But are we doing that as well and efficiently and effectively as we can to continue keeping Boise an extremely safe city? So, as my partner up here said, officer wellness. Are we doing everything we can to keep those men and women safe and well who are doing that for everyone else? And you said it beautifully, but it's true. We need to take care of our people so they can take care of others. And we need to have the physical, the mental, and the psychological programs to support our public safety officers. So those three things. Finally, I worry about traffic, as I discussed, are making sure that as a leader, are we doing everything tactically and strategically and as partners to drive down traffic? And finally, and I think maybe every bit as important, is we need to continue the professionalization of the Boise Police Department to be the absolutely most professional and premier organization that it can possibly be. Not so we can say that and put a sticker on our car, but because that is what the Boise community deserves. And what is professionalism? To me, it's character, it's competence, and it's a commitment. That character is when it comes down to our hiring. We cannot, because we're at a 10% higher, or maybe we're at 8% attrition rate, or we just like in my hometown, we have to still hire the very, very best men and women. We have to hire people that absolutely have integrity, have courage, have boldness, and a servant's heart. And if it takes a little longer to do that, but we're trying as hard as we can, then we've succeeded. So hiring people, but also as my partner said, making sure that the men and women who are supervising, they have character, and they're men and women of character, and holding them accountable, as is one of the core values already of the Boise Police Department, holding them accountable to those core values and to the officers and to the community. Finally, we talked about character, we talked about competence. We need our officers to be competent, and that goes to the great training that is out there. Are our command staff going to the FBI National Academy? Are we sending them to the Senior Management Institute for Police? Are our detectives going to the greatest homicide schools in the nation? Are we sending our civilians and professional staff to CSI schools that really make us the best crime scene investigators? We really have to focus on educating our people. Are they getting the best training they can possibly get, whether it's de-escalation or dealing with mental health? And finally, commitment. When we lead, all of us police leaders, and really everyone in the department, we have to lead with a commitment, knowing full well and first and foremost, our commitment is to the community we serve. So that regardless of everything that's going around and all the noise that happens in law enforcement, all the noise that happens in politics and government, we are here to be servants. And that has to be a loud, ringing, and understanding from the very top of the department to the very newest hire.
Thanks, Chief. Had to wait for that microphone to come back on. So, Chief Worthy, same question for you. how would you lead the Boise Police Department to maintain and build upon the good relationships the department has with the Boise community?
Thank you for that, Justin. Trust. Trust is something that's very hard to gain, and it's very easy to lose. And it's one of those things that we go out and earn every single day at my department. Our community trusts us, not because of what I do, but because of what my officers, my men and women in the field do every single day. We go out and say what we're gonna do, and we do what we're gonna say, and we do what we said we're gonna do. So it's a matter of pride for us that we engage in our community. I said before, my brand is community-oriented policing. We're gonna engage with the community and recognize that we can't do it all alone. We need the partnership of our community, we need the partnership of our outside agencies and our community mental health providers, schools, and others to continue to make Boise great. And so in doing that, one way that we can ensure that that's occurring is through proper training, policies, rules, procedures, and supervision. I can't enforce enough how important it is that proper supervision occurs in the field at the front line. Those sergeants and others who are out day to day in the field overseeing the operations of the police department are there to enforce standards and operate as supervisors. And so for them to be out there and doing that, it needs to be documented that they're on scene, doing their job, and doing it well. And so I don't have any tolerance for a sergeant who's not willing to correct an issue in the field, or anyone on the command staff for that matter. And then also having those systems in place to give us early warning of when somebody's deviating from that North Star of our mission, vision, and values, right? If we have somebody who's just had that third complaint and maybe it's not a big deal, but it's an accumulation of complaints where it's starting to look like a problem, having those interventions in place to ensure that, hey, what's going on with this person? Is this officer well? Do they need support? Do they need training? Do they need possibly even discipline in order to bring them back to within our standards and maintain our standards very high standards. So everybody knows that if you're gonna come to work as a City of Boise police officer, you are going to be expected to be a great cop. You know, we don't want to settle for mediocre and we don't want to settle for good. We want to aspire to greatness in everything that we do, aspire to greatness. And that counts for me, myself, all the way down to the newest officer. And also in terms of being out there in the community and the way that we deliver those services, I frequently think back to the medical profession and the Hippocratic Oath of first do no harm. I've seen officers that got on scene and made things fundamentally worse, and that's not what we're out there to do. It's a different word, but it's the same idea, guardian mentality. If you read the President's Task Force report on 21st century policing, there's much discussion about remove the warrior mentality. We are not at war with the citizens. We are not the military. We are civilian police officers out to protect our community and bring forth that guardian mindset to solve problems within our community with the help of our partners to make Boise the best city of its class in the United States. And we can aspire to that. The resources are here to do that, and with proper leadership, Boise can do it. And I will treat my staff with dignity and respect, because if we treat them bad, what do we expect them to go out and do to our public? So they deserve to be treated like the professionals that they are, and go forward and do the right thing, even whether anybody's watching or not, and understand that that is the expectation every single time, to be great in your role.
Great, thank you, Chief. I just want to let everyone know these gentlemen have been at this process since about 8:30 this morning. They've been through, I think, 5 different job interviews each so far today, but they're still plugging along pretty strong tonight. So I really appreciate your comments, gentlemen. Quick round of applause for them, and then we'll break up and thank you very much. I think this is the most important part of this evening, so please take some time, get to know the candidates, come up and talk to them, ask them your questions, just get to know them a little bit better. I think you'll find they're all very personable one-on-one, so really encourage you to do that. Thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it.